Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. So today we're focusing on the green and digital skills that can be developed through the National Education Nature Park programme and how participating in Nature Park can help equip children and young people with skills they'll need for the future world of work, whatever career pathway they choose. So you'll be hearing from three of us today. I'm Laura Sol, and I'll be giving a quick overview of the programme and details on the Nature Park Green Skills Framework, as well as how it's integrated with curriculum learning and supports inclusion of all children in programme activity. Next up will be Lisa Peter from the Royal Horticultural Society, who'll be discussing horticulture as a green skill and how to support young people with environmental stewardship and opportunities to develop other green skills while connecting with nature and enhancing well-being. And finally, we'll hear from Addy from Esri UK, who will be demonstrating the opportunities and importance of developing digital skills through the programme and how digital tools and skills can help rather than hinder engaging with the natural world. So first, a quick reminder of what the Nature Park is all about. For those of you who've joined recently or need a refresher, do go back and look at the recordings of our previous webinars, which cover everything from how to first get started, how to make use of our curriculum resources, and how to make improvements on your site for nature. But this is the overall programme aim, that children throughout their time in education can develop a connection to nature, understand the threat that it's facing, and really importantly, can see that they're able to make a difference with their actions and by working with others for change. So the Nature Park itself is a network of spaces for nature across England. You can see the map on the slide there. We now really excitingly have over 2,500 people registered that represent 2,200 schools, nurseries and colleges, and 950 sites have officially added themselves to the Nature Park map, which shows the collective difference that's being made. And again, excitingly, over 60 schools have already made a map of the different habitats on their site using our digital tools, and we're hoping to see lots more of those appear over the coming months. Also, don't forget to check out our library of quality assured resources for nature and climate education aligned with the curriculum. And remember that this year, the Nature Park is all about turning grey to green. So that's adding small pockets of nature to the buildings or concrete areas at your site for a big boost to biodiversity. This diagram shows the 5-step process of Nature Park. You can find out more detail about different activities for each step on our Nature Park page on the website, and you can use the Nature Park filter on the resources library to see the activities to complete each step as well. These activities can be used to help children take the lead in the process. So starting with getting outside and recording the plants and wildlife that might already be there on your site, using this data alongside other data to identify opportunities and make improvements for people and nature, deciding what changes to make, working together to make those changes, and then going back to see the difference that you've made since step one. Now, development of green skills is built into every step of this process, so young people will improve their skills for the future just by taking part in Nature Park. Today, as I said, we're talking about green skills and careers, but what do we actually mean by that? So what you can see on the screen here is the definition of a green job that was published last year by the Office of National Statistics. You can see that this is a fairly broad definition, and as we're not just looking at career options, but also looking at skill development through Nature Park, we also use a broad interpretation of this definition, and that helps us support the inclusion of children and young people with a really wide range of skills and interests. Traditionally, what we might have thought of as being green jobs could be jobs in conservation, land management, research, environmental campaigning, so that you can see those on the slide here. So jobs directly relating to nature and sustainability and making use of STEM skills, like some of those listed here as well. And these jobs and skills are going to be really important for tackling climate change and biodiversity loss. So in Nature Park, we do showcase these opportunities that very directly contribute to protecting and restoring the environment. However, not everyone is going to end up working in STEM or digital focused jobs, and given the scale of the global challenges we're facing, it's important to acknowledge that increasingly all jobs will have to be green jobs, and that sustainability is going to need to be factored into everything we do in our work and our daily lives. So this means the scope of what can meaningfully be considered green skills also includes things like cooperation, empathy, communication, creative and critical thinking, or decision making and leadership. So we've designed the programme to help young people develop all of these different kinds of green skills alongside developing curriculum knowledge. These are all an integral part of participation. Protecting and restoring the natural world starts with identifying and bringing together the differing needs and perspectives of a really wide range of people. Skills that will support success within the transformations that are needed during the transition to net zero, like working with highly complex problems, respecting diverse viewpoints, or taking an interdisciplinary approach. These are all built into Nature Park participation. So we're really preparing children and young people for a future where many job roles that they may eventually hold don't actually exist yet, but these skills that we've shown on the slides here can help them across the board. In practice for Nature Park, this means, for example, that our career profiles include a diverse representation of people whose roles and skills relate to understanding and protecting biodiversity and the climate. There are some profiles available on the website now from a range of organisations, and they're highlighted at the end of each of our units of learning. We'll be adding to this careers profile library in the coming months. We're also ensuring that children's interests across all curriculum subjects are included in the activities through which young people help with their Nature Park, so that they can see the value of their individual unique skills and can feel able to take action for the environment in the future. So you may have seen this before. This is the skills framework that we've used alongside the national curriculum to guide the development of activities for our programme. The Nature Park process is underpinned by sequence development across these 6 key skill areas, from first beginning to develop a skill, all the way up to skill mastery. The framework broadly aligns with development of knowledge and skills included in the working scientifically, geography fieldwork, and citizenship competencies within the national curriculum. So you'll find activities are suggested for different key stages that fit in with national curriculum expectations of skill level. However, we really recognise that young people with varied opportunities to engage with nature might be at very different skill levels across these different areas. So Nature Park resources are rarely completely key stage specific to reflect that and to make them accessible for all. As educators, you can make use of tools at a level appropriate for the prior knowledge and experience of your learners who you know best. All of the Nature Park activities have the green skills they include in the preparation section, and these 6 icons are used on guidance documents and downloads as well. So I'm going to go through each of the 6 skills really quickly to give you an idea of the kind of range from beginning to mastery that we've based our activities on, as well as just giving an example on each slide of an activity that works to deliver each of these skills. But much more information about this can be found on the Nature Park website. You'll be able to see as well through this how these skills support the Nature Park 5-step process. So first up, we have identification and ecology, which is a very obviously Nature Park skill. It's about learning how to confidently know and identify features of the local area and local biodiversity and deduce how they interact through observation. We've then got recording data, which has lots of clear links to curriculum knowledge and skill development. And green skill-wise, being able to collect data to make evidence-informed decisions about anything from biodiversity to energy use to people's opinions will be important. This skill is about confidently, systematically, and accurately collecting and recording information about biodiversity and capturing the views and ideas of the school community. Once you have that data, we move on to interpreting data and looking at how you can use it effectively. Here, young people can work towards noticing patterns and using increasingly complex approaches to validate them, then consider the perspective of others to inform action about the improvements related to local nature and community needs. I think the slides need to catch up a little bit, so I'm just going to give them a second. Sorry about that. We're on to creative thinking and decision making. Skills in creative thinking and decision making are about being able to make evidence-based decisions and to work collaboratively to design creative solutions to nature-based issues and find opportunities for change, as well as being able to creatively imagine a better future for nature. And then we have communication. So through communication skill development, young people can learn how to share issues, findings, and impact in oral and written forms to different audiences, and share their own knowledge and expertise with others. Through good communication, they can create and collaborate with others to realise their shared vision of the change they'd like to see based on school, community, and needs of nature. And finally, we have environmental stewardship and horticulture. So through environmental stewardship and horticulture, young people can develop confidence to spend time outdoors, as well as the motivation to improve biodiversity, respect and take care of and maintain their local landscapes, and take into consideration the needs and perspectives of the local community. And I'm going to hand over to Lisa now to say much more about horticulture as a green skill.
Thank you so much, and hello everybody. I'm Lisa Peter. I work for the Royal Horticultural Society, also known as RHS, as you can see in the logo. You're going to hear that abbreviation a number of times. We are one of the Nature Park partner organisations, but we're also the UK's leading horticulture charity. So we look after 5 public gardens across England. That includes stunning living collections of plants, as you can imagine, as well as a considerable archive and heritage collection. We also have a very thriving plant science department, and we've been offering education and professional training in horticulture for more than 200 years by now. So we've got a little bit of experience in that field, I think it's fair to say. And in addition to contributing to Nature Park, we are also running other education outreach programs, like, for example, the RHS campaign for school gardening, as well as on-site educational sessions in our gardens. I'm here today because I'm overseeing our careers promotion initiative at the RHS, which is called New Shoots, and that is looking to increase the number and diversity of people entering horticulture, the horticultural sector, and choosing it as a career. So today I thought I'm going to share a little bit of information about how horticultural skills are green skills. I think it's fairly straightforward, but it's useful to go into a bit more detail here. How to include horticulture in school settings, and which resources and materials are available to educators, both on the Nature Education website, but also beyond, and also where interested students can find out more about green careers in the sector and where to get practical experience. In case you are less familiar with the horticulture sector and the breadth of careers and job roles available in it, I thought I'd start with a brief overview of what we actually mean by horticulture, what kind of job roles fall into it, etc. So horticulture is more than just gardening. It's the art, science, technology and business of cultivating plants. So it encompasses really quite a breadth of roles. So this covers everything from tending to your back garden naturally to cutting edge genetic research, for example. Horticultural roles can be hands-on and technical, but they can also include creative roles such as in garden and landscape design, garden media, etc. They can also combine working with people with working with plants throughout horticultural education or horticultural therapy. So this sector really covers a very broad spectrum of fascinating ideas. In short, it is all about plants. Plants is what brings us together, but there's such a variety of areas you can actually go into. Excuse me. Just to give you a bit of labour market information, the horticultural sector currently employs more than 670,000 people in the UK. And in 2019, it contributed almost £29 billion to the UK economy. Can we go back with the slides, please? So just to give you a bit of an idea, that is roughly twice the amount of the motor industry, just for comparison. So it's quite a sizable sector. It's quite an important one. And what is more, it is a growing sector and a changing one as well, as you can imagine. It's really in need of fresh talent and up-to-date skills, as the way we garden individually as well as commercially changes rapidly at the moment, as you can imagine. That ranges from development regulations, which are asking for better inclusion of green spaces now, to the challenges of climate change, which makes us have to rethink our food security, for example. So why consider working in horticulture? So in addition to this being a sector that has grown significantly over the last couple of years, and that is set to keep doing that for a couple of years more, what other considerations might come into play? It's really a sector that is open to everyone. It is inclusive as well as aspirational, because there's several different pathways into horticulture, like T-levels, apprenticeships, diplomas, as well as higher education and further education training routes. It's also really flexible. It's a job that works for you, that very much takes into consideration what people's interests are and lets them shape their career around it. As I said, it can be about gardening, it can be about science, design, education, community outreach. There's so many different angles from which you can approach working in horticulture. It also gives you the opportunity in a lot of training routes to earn while you learn. So, for example, work-based training is very often paid. So there are opportunities to develop skills while actually getting paid at the same time. It's also very entrepreneurial. We see that with a lot of people who are starting to get their formal qualifications, whether that is through college or work-based training, etc. Many horticulturalists establish their own businesses quite quickly. That can be tree surgeons or landscaping companies, florists, etc. And those people are really enjoying their freedom to shape their own future, create the flexible schedules that work for them, and also realize the potential for higher earnings as a young entrepreneur. And last but not least, the green skills development that today is all about. You can basically be an eco-hero while working in horticulture. You can put the green into green skills, quite literally. And you can play a crucial role in combating climate change by tackling things as carbon, managing water, caring for the soil, and supporting ecosystem health. So you can really join the sustainability movement and make a difference. Just a little nugget, did you know, for example, that RHS scientists dedicate over 100,000 hours per year to finding ways to combat climate change? So there's really an opportunity here for people to make a noticeable difference. So speaking of these green skills, we've already heard about the kind of green skills framework that is central to the Nature Park project. We are also supporting a couple of other green skills which are developed through horticulture. They are, as you can imagine, quite practical. We're really putting plants into wherever we can, basically, and that also supports the following green skills. Biodiversity awareness. We're really trying to foster an awareness of the importance of plant diversity and its impact on ecosystems, and vice versa. Resource management is becoming ever more important in sustainable gardening practices. We are teaching efficient use of resources like water and soil, adding nutrients and organic matter to our growing media. Moving away from peat is a very important one in this respect. We're also looking at climate resilience. We can explore how horticulture can really contribute to climate change adaptation and mitigation. And all of this eventually leads to and supports environmental stewardship, where we're really looking to instill a sense of responsibility for the environment through sustainable gardening practices. So the question is, how can the development of these green skills actually be supported through horticulture in school settings? There are a few options here, and a number of which you are already engaging with through the Nature Park project anyway. I've included the links to any other resources beyond Nature Park on this slide as well, and we're going to post them in the chat for you to check out later. And if there's any questions, pop them in the Q&A or send them to us as emails and we'll get back to you about them. Just to go through them in a bit more detail, curriculum integration and project-based learning, these are things which the Nature Park programme already touches upon quite centrally, where it's all about blending horticulture into subjects, highlighting its role in environmental sustainability, and also creating scenarios for students to address real-world environmental issues through horticultural practices. So NENP is very much looking at that. But the RHS is also supporting some other materials and resources that are going to give you ideas and hands-on advice at how to incorporate this into your school settings. The RHS campaign for school gardening, for example, has got a lot of resources which are based on school gardening, but also go beyond that. So it's always worth checking out. It's free to access as well, as are our newly released free Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 biology resources, together with our partner developing experts. They are aligned with the AQA curriculum, and they also offer careers videos and job profiles as samples for those STEM subjects and where those STEM skills are coming into play. Excuse me. You could also think about, for example, inviting industry ambassadors into your educational settings. So to invite horticulture professionals or local environmentalists into your schools, into your classrooms, to speak about what they do, what their job entails, how they trained, how they got there, what they really like about it, how it is developing, how their skill set is developing and will develop over the next couple of years. There's two very good networks you can get in touch with in case you haven't done so already. One of them is called Inspiring the Future, run by a company called Education and Employers, and the other one is the STEM Learning Ambassador Network. So they're both doing similar things, Inspiring the Future is working a bit more with primary schools and state schools only, whereas the STEM Learning Ambassadors are very much looking at the STEM subjects and really boosting sign up for those subjects, particularly with girls. There's other things you can do, like actually creating a school garden and have school gardening or green clubs. Again, the campaign for school gardening is a really good starting point to find out what that entails, what kind of skills you might need as somebody who is looking after a project or a club like that, what it entails to look after a school garden from a maintenance perspective, etc., etc. So there's a lot of really good hands-on tips on that website. And last but not least, this is obviously closest to my heart, if you have any students or anybody in your school who is particularly interested in finding out more about careers in this sector, employer engagement is a really good opportunity to get those students in front of employers, connecting with employers. So you can partner with local green businesses or organisations for things like student internships and work experience. If you are lucky enough to be in the vicinity of one of the RHS gardens, please feel free to get in touch with us at RHS New Shoots. The website address is going to pop up in the chat in a moment. Or send us an email, because we are coordinating work experience and internship at the RHS gardens. But don't despair if you're not in the vicinity of one of our gardens. There's plenty of other local contacts in the vicinity of your schools. It could be botanical gardens, nurseries, local farms. It could be parks. There's all sorts of green businesses and organisations that will probably be very, very happy to team up with you to get your students engaged and excited about green careers and green skills. So by adopting these strategies, you can really create an environment that not only teaches horticulture as skills, but that also instills a deep understanding of the importance of those green skills for the future, whether you end up working in horticulture or beyond. So that was all I was going to say about horticulture as green skills. So thank you so much for your time. Let me know whether you have any questions in the Q&A or send them to us per email. And I now hand over to Addy.
Thank you. So I'm Addy Pope, I work for Esri UK. I'm going to take you through some of the digital skills that can be embedded into learners through the nature park. So if we move on to the next slide. I'm first going to talk about the Hidden Nature Challenge, which has been running for a while now. And the premise of this was to get students to go out with a digital device to capture nature around the school in places that you might not expect to find it. And what we're really thinking about here is sending the students out with a familiar device, a phone or a tablet, to collect proper information. Have they actually ever considered that the phone that they've got in their pocket is actually, it's a marvelous device. It's a little supercomputer and we can use it as a tool. They probably haven't. It's a gadget. It's a form of communication. It's something that they can use to connect with their friends and view TikTok. But what we're doing is getting them to use an app to collect data in a methodical and consistent manner. And we can use that process to get them ask some questions like, why are we collecting this information? Why are we using a form and not a notebook? Why are we collecting a geolocation on a map? Why are we asking you to capture a photograph? Now, the image on the left-hand side of the slide shows one of the photographs that's been collected. And you can see you've got, I am not a biologist by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see that you have some vegetation there in what looks like either wood or sandstone. It's not my photograph, but certainly it wasn't intended to be in that place. So you can ask them and use that phone as the lens to focus their attention. Is the photograph that you're taking going to adequately describe the habitat of the plant? Is the photograph that you're taking going to be able to allow us to go back to the classroom and use either a textbook or the internet to identify the plant? But it also allows us to explore some other things, such as why is the position on the map not where we would expect it to be? GPSs are fantastic things, but they don't always report reliable location information. We can ask the students why the location may be wrong, And the answer to that could be that, well, actually, this photograph's a really good example. You can see buildings in the background, and those buildings will affect the GPS signal and will make it appear to be in a different place. Also, the vegetation, the canopies of trees will distort the GPS signal. So perhaps if you've collected a location under a tree canopy in winter, it was super accurate. But lo and behold, when you go back late spring, the canopy is now lush and green, but that's going to affect the accuracy of the data that you're collecting. And then you can teach the students how to correct the digital data. Digital capture is fantastic, but we shouldn't blindly assume that it's always correct. We can also then lead on to other aspects such as geoprivacy. And what do I mean by geoprivacy? Well, the photograph here is a really good example of a photograph that was taken with an intended purpose. It has the plant, it has the habitat, it has the local environment. It has nothing else. There are no faces that can be identified in this photograph. So that's what we're talking about, geoprivacy. But actually, if we think back to what I've just previously said about GPS information in our phones, that information is usually stamped into the EXIF data of the image. These students are taking pictures and uploading them to social media all the time about what they do and who they do it with into social media platforms. Can you use this exercise to demonstrate that geoprivacy is a very real thing and they're unknowingly or unwittingly giving away some of their location data? So there's multiple levels that you can build into this exercise. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So the next example that I would like to describe is kind of, it's the next progression from you've been out in the field collecting data on a digital device. That data flows back, usually into something that's been pre-prepared for the teacher and the students, a digital dashboard. The example on the screen, I believe, is the Co-op Academy in Manchester, where a set of Year 13 students, accompanied by a teacher, went out and collected biodiversity data on their school estate. That data flows into the dashboard and you get a really nice pictorial image with an easy to understand satellite image with the data that's been collected superimposed on top. And around that dashboard are infographics which will change as you zoom in and out on the map. So they can start to interrogate the data that they've captured to answer questions about why stuff is in one place and not in another. But it goes further because then they're connected to other schools that have carried out the same exercise. They can start to look at the differences between urban schools versus rural schools, or perhaps a school in the very north of England with a school in the southwest of England. What does the biodiversity and the habitat look like in those different places? And even west versus east, with our rain shadow effect, with the west being very wetter and the east being a lot drier. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So where are we going with this? Well, we've planned more primary data collection activities, building on the Hidden Nature Challenge project. But we've also started to investigate other scenarios, such as shade maps. So the image on the right-hand side of this slide looks at the built environment on a school estate. And there's a tool built into this which allows the students to explore the effect of shadows. They can look at the shadow at any minute of the day, any day of the year, and where it is projected onto the ground, and think about the opportunities and the stresses that might cause for biodiversity. Some plants love the sun, some plants hate the sun and want a bit more shade. And thinking about the aspect, the north and the south, and the orientation of their buildings, but it could go even further with new construction on a school estate will be forcing shadows into new places and causing stresses, or again, opportunities. The next initiative that I'll briefly describe is looking at microclimates, and specifically the microclimates around the school environment, coupled with the biodiversity that is there. We have information from the Met Office looking at future climate models, and the pupils can then use those future climate scenarios to highlight how climate will impact the biodiversity locally. But again, they can compare it with areas further away. So how might a future climate scenario affect schools in the north compared with in the southeast, where it's certainly going to be a lot hotter and a lot drier? What will the effects be locally and nationally? And I think these examples will help build on the digital school skills that students have all across the education remit. But they mirror almost exactly what professional geoprofessionals are doing in their day-to-day lives, because we live in a very data-rich world, and we use tools such as GIS to make data-driven decisions. And this is exactly what the students have the opportunity to do when they're collecting data digitally and then they're viewing it through digital dashboards. That's everything that I've got. So I'm going to hand back to Laura to go into the Q&A session.
Thanks very much, Addy. Yeah, so thanks very much for talking us through those different aspects, both Lisa and Addy. We've heard a lot today about the different kinds of skills across the board that Nature Park can be used to develop. And just to reiterate that these are all really built into the programme. So when you're using the activities that are on the website, and as Addy has mentioned, we will be adding in lots more over time that allow you to do lots of different things with your students. Those skills and development of them are really kind of integral to participating with the activities that we have there for your use. So thanks everyone for joining us today. It was really good to speak with you. Remember, if you haven't registered to join the Nature Park yet, you can do that on our website. The link is just there. And if you do have any questions, post them in the Q&A now. If you haven't had an answer, we'll get back to you. And if you've got further ones, then you can contact the team hello@educationnaturepark.org.uk and one of us will respond to you. So thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time.